Welcome back to Warframe. My name is Todd, also known as Major Mech, and this is of course Warframe. Last time we did a bounty, kind of got some more mods. I did say, and we did fishing and mining to show those off. I did say we would also go show how to get resources from fish, from Fisher High Luck, and I will do that here in just a minute. But our pattern finished, and I did want to show that off, just kind of making sure that it's understood how to use the foundry, because it is pretty critical. So you just come in here, it's finished, ready to claim, you claim it, and you're good to go. You can make more right from here, so you just, if you wanted to make it just a bunch of health kits, you could make some right there. Would be pretty useful if we really needed them, but right now we really don't. Let's take a look at our mods real quick before we go anywhere and see if we can't get another set of mods on. Well, we can put flame repellent on, but that's not really going to be super helpful until we can get another mod. Let's see. What about our bow? Okay, so we do have fast hands we could throw on, and we do have point strike that we could throw on. Alright, so for now we're just kind of throwing on as many mods as we can. We're trying to get that junction.
Your chosen Warframe suits you.
Heated charge. So this kind of shows off one of the first elemental damage mods that we've gotten. And elemental damage mods are very important in Warframe because they add elemental damage to your weapons. So even if your weapon doesn't have any elemental damage to begin with, throwing on an elemental damage mod is super important if you're really trying to do a lot of damage. But it does take up a lot of resources to be able to use it, so we might have to take that off later depending on what kind of mods we get. What about our katana here? Or skana here. Let's see. We got reach. We could throw that on. So these aren't fully ranked up yet, meaning that we don't have the mod capacity that we could if they were fully ranked. So we'll probably be able to throw on things like Fury and some of the other mods later on. If you're really worried about capacity, the best thing to do would be to just farm affinity or by doing missions and get your ranks of your Warframe and weapons up. But let's head back over to Cetus so we can show off how to get resources from fish, and then we'll do that other bounty. So there are lots of things you can be doing right now at this stage in the game. You kind of do hit your first wall before you kind of finish your first junction, and you kind of start to see that Warframe does have a lot of grindy elements to it. You are kind of doing a lot of the same sort of stuff. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people like that. There are definitely games that kind of cater towards that, like Diablo or Path of Exile. And this is kind of similar to that. Warframe is very much like those games. So if you like that style of game and you're into that whole grinding for gear or getting new stuff and using it, then this is kind of the perfect game for you. But let's change it back over to public. And we'll try and do that other bounty here in a second. I almost forgot. Fisher High Luck, of course. I get started on a tangent and then, God, I just go on and on about it. And then I repeat myself and it just gets terrible. So, with Fisher High Luck, you can go down to the fishing services. You can select your fish.
Absolutely not filled with a knowable horror.
And I love that line from Fisher High Luck. But you can take all your fish and you can select them.
Size, good length.
Fisher High Luck will talk about them.
Still too big.
You can select all of them you kind of want. If you do want to save any for whatever reason, just don't select them when you're in this screen and you'll save them.
Still too big.
If you select them though, you can either provide them for a reputation, which right now isn't really worth it, or cut them for bait, which is how you get the resources.
I find a use for every part of the beast.
So the flaying results will show you what resources you got. The main one that you're going for early on will probably be fish oil, because that'll be a much needed resource later on. The other resources will be needed as well, but you'll need them in greater quantities and need to do lots of kind of farming for those type of fish. Alright, now that that's done, we can head on to our first, or our second bounty, official bounty, aside from the quest, that is, and hopefully not die too much, but might get a little difficult.
Got something. Heavy hitter like you needs a little snack, yeah?
Everybody needs a little bit of a challenge though, don't they? So this one, the first one we did was of course 5 to 15, and we did go down one time, but you know, it was kind of hectic, and the next one is 10 to 30, and we might go down a little bit more, but hopefully
Couldn't
not.
get anyone to take that on.
Hopefully
Early
we'll get
lunch
a
for
good
council.
group, and we won't have to worry about dying.
The Quills are at it again, telling me an important Orican relic is being unearthed by the Grenier.
So
Quills would like
the
this
biggest thing
relic
I do want to
back,
make a note of
but I
is
would like to keep the
when
Quills
returning
happy.
from
Will
these
you
bounties back to Cetus, it's very easy to find your way by just opening your map as I showed previously by holding F2. And that'll show the big map, which you can kind of orient yourself with to be able to come back to Cetus. In the meantime, though, let's just head towards our objective and get this over with. Oh. So this one is finding caches. You'll pretty much find them the same way. They make a noise. You open them up, and you're good to go.
Excellent hunting. You found one of the caches. Just one cache remaining.
One cache left. Let's see. Usually they hide them around the same spots, so it should be relatively easy to find. If you kind of get used to these bounties and you kind of go back to the same spots that they hide the caches, usually it's in a select location. They didn't vary them up too much.
That's the last
And
cache.
my partner there found them.
No
Good.
sign of the relic.
Oh, we did get
That
steel fiber. That's
will
good.
not be happy about losing those resources.
So this bounty as well only has 3 stages. The later bounties will have more stages as time goes on.
The Grenier have been using drones to perform subsurface scans of the plains. Hijack one for me.
And effectively, that means that, you know, with more stages it gets more difficult as time goes on.
The drone
The enemy
is nearby.
level gets
Find
higher,
it and hack it.
gets more problematic. But for us it shouldn't be too difficult. So that hacking, of course, is
That's
similar to
it.
the other
The
hacking. It
drone
just
is under
has
our control
more
now.
points that you have to
Escort it
get.
to the extraction point before the enemy can destroy it.
I'm sure eventually I'll mess one of those up, but hopefully not right now. Oh, so here's a special resource that you can find in the plains. Cetus wisps.
More
If you
Grenier
walk into them,
inbound. Don't let them harm the drone.
they give you a Cetus wisp, which is kind of rare, and you do want to tell your friends that they are there. It is kind of important. They're much coveted later on in the game. They tend to be around bodies of water, and I need to deal with this Ragran. Oh, he just died. Those wisps, though, will be useful much later on, and you'll need quite a few of them, and they're very kind of rough to find because they're only around water and they only spawn so many of them.
They're sending
So,
another wave to take out the drone.
It will be
Stay
worth it.
vigilant.
Oh, we got a vehicle now. Good. It will be worth it to make sure that your friends know they're there. People will kind of respect you if you tell them that you found a wisp. Or at the very least, you'll help them out. At least a little bit. The big thing, as I stated in a previous video, is Warframe's all kind of about the community and helping each other out. It is an MMO, of course. Helping each other is one of the big things about Warframe, and the Warframe community tends to be very good about it.
They're sending
So,
another wave to
just kind of
take out the
foster that.
drone.
Don't come
Stay
around
vigilant.
and, you know, be a jerk and expect people to be nice to you in return. I do have to admit the pose that I've got on this here Dagrin is kind of weird. I think it's kind of bugging out a
The
little.
drone had a complete imprint of the relic. I know what to look for now.
Let's see. Where are we going to next?
I'm tracking a Grenier agent in possession of the
Good.
relic. It appears he's trying to get it off the plains on foot. Capture him and the relic.
So, while in our little Dagrin, we move faster, of course, and we can sprint and go even faster, which is great. I don't think my partner can do the same, though, which kind of sucks a little bit. So I'll kind of wait up before I go towards the objective. Our partner here is actually a primed Sarin. Sarin's a very good Warframe, and she's also got some high-level gear, so I'm pretty sure she's no stranger to how things work. I'll start it up since she's kind of heading on her way.
The officer is nearby. Track them down.
We'll
There's
kind
the
of
officer. Capture
explain
them.
how some of these primed Warframes and items kind of work as we kind of encounter them. I may also decide to go into like an entire episode where I just explain how they work. And the main thing is there are typically a normal variant of a weapon or Warframe, and then a prime variant or weapon of said Warframe or weapon. And the prime version is typically better, pretty much overall. It tends to be upgraded in some way that allows for you to get a much better benefit out of it. So for instance, there's a Prime Volt, and the main benefit of that is you have much higher armor. And as you can imagine from how many times I've gone down to just normal enemies, that is pretty critical. So having more armor on your Warframe, of course, reduces the amount of damage you take, and is greatly useful later on. Oh dear. Hopefully it won't be too useful right now. Okay, Siren Prime dealt with it. Good. So this is a basic capture mission. We captured the target, and we moved on. I am going to get out of here because I really don't want to die.
You captured the relic and the Grenier archaeologist? He and I are going to have an interesting conversation.
So we just got our first relic, so I can kind of explain a little bit more about the primes and how you get them. And we'll do that after we head back to Cetus, because we finished what we needed to do. So I'm going to just run my way back to Cetus. I think the Siren Prime here, my buddy, is not as advanced as I thought, just because they don't appear to have the item that you can get in the plains, which makes you much faster. There is something that you can craft later on which will make you much faster throughout the plains, but this person doesn't appear to have it. Not necessarily a bad thing, because it kind of makes it even ground for us. Much nicer when we're not trying to compete in a race of speed to get back to the entrance. After all, we did pick Volt for some sort of reason. Gotta go fast somehow. Oh, looks like they might have finally used their item. Looks like they might actually have it. Hard to tell from here. Yep, it does seem that they do. So you might notice that they're flying. You can use your Arcwing, which we haven't run across just yet, in the Plains of Eidolon with an item. But more on that when we actually deal with it. For now, there's that Wisp, of course. And we've, of course, finished our bounty. So I will show off that relic if I'm able to, after I leave the squad here. And let's see, how much time do we have left? A good amount of time still. So I might have to find something to do and explain. So I guess we can go with the primes. So let's head back to our ship, so I can talk about the relics and the primes. I don't know if it'll open rifts just to us yet. I don't think we've encountered any of them. So I don't think it'll open them to us. Let's take a look. Oh, it does open them to us. Okay, so now we've gotten our first relic. We can see that there are things called rifts. Or void fissures. Forgive me, I just refer to them as rifts because I think they do that in the mission itself. So these are missions where you would select them and you'd equip a relic, like the one we just got. And in the mission you'd be able to open the said relic by doing certain objectives. Don't currently want to do that just yet. We'll probably save that for the next episode, and we'll go into more detail. This is the station where you kind of upgrade your void relics, and will allow you to kind of change how they function. For now, we only have one relic. Can't really access a void segments just yet, but I can tell you that they are how you get. You can go into your codex and see relics and arcanes. They are how you get certain things. Arcanes are something we haven't seen yet, and I'm not going to explain them just yet. But the relics are effectively items that you equip for those void fissures, so you're able to open them and get a chance at one of the rewards listed here. So they have a chance to get you a primed item, or a primed part, that is. Those primed parts you can use to, of course, craft the primed items, or you could trade them into the Void Trader to get his resources, which I kind of mentioned last time.
Do you remember the
primed
old war,
versions. Let's
operator?
see. I don't know if
Or
I've
just
run
seems to
across
have
them enough.
misplaced those
Okay, so
memories.
it does kind of just show them right off the bat. So there are normal warframes and then there are primed warframes. So we know a little bit about Volt. We kind of know what he does. We know that his stats are what they are here for just a standard Volt. But the primed Volt effectively is an upgraded version of that. And let's see if I can't find him. There we go. Volt Prime. So his stats get upgraded. His armor is better. I think his energy is better. Let me take a look. His energy is indeed better. And effectively, his stats are kind of upgraded, which allow you to get a better handle on him. Plus, I think there's also some polarities that you get in bonus. In addition to that, effectively, when you build the primed version of your Warframe. So you get those primed parts from the relics by opening them in Void Fissures, which allow you to get primed Warframes and weapons, which are just kind of upgraded versions of the standard weapons. So if you don't have any primed stuff right off the bat, don't be surprised. It takes a long time to get that sort of stuff built up. You could just buy it, but I wouldn't suggest it. Honestly, it's kind of a waste because most of the time if an item can be gotten through Prime Access or the Prime Vaults, which is the paid versions of Warframe, it could probably be gotten in a relic and just farmed over time. So that's kind of just an introductory, like scratching the surface of how relics work. Next time we'll probably do a relic mission to show that off. After that we'll focus on getting that junction. Hopefully I'll have the time to farm up the last mods we need to be able to open up that junction. I could show that off in another episode as well. I probably won't be able to show off the Void's console, Void Relic console for some time, so that'll probably have to wait. But the relics are useful. It is definitely worth it to get them and hang on to them. You can sell them to other players, but I personally suggest that you kind of just hold on to them because they do allow you to get the best armor and weapons in the game, which are the prime versions of the Warframes and the weapons. So I can show off pretty much kind of how that goes. Let's see. Let's see. Do we have anything standard? Okay, yeah, here. We can show off a Bratton versus a Bratton Prime real quick to show just how different it really is. So you've got your standard Bratton. Its stats are kind of right here. It's not a bad weapon. It'll get you through a lot of content. I wouldn't suggest really using it for too long though, because there are much better weapons out there. Versus the Bratton Prime though. The Bratton Prime is a much beefier weapon. The damage alone is much higher. Plus the magazine and the other stats on the weapon are great. But the mastery rank requirement is much higher on a lot of primed gear, so don't be surprised if you get a primed piece of gear and the parts for it, but you just can't build it because you don't have a high enough mastery yet. I guess I can make the note that the highest mastery that I believe any item requires at the current time is 16, so kind of shooting for that level of mastery if you're just trying to get weapons and armor is a great place to go. Alright, let's take one last look at how much time we've got left. Not much time left, okay. So I can go a little bit into kind of what we're going to focus on from here. I did start to talk about it last time, but we are going to focus on getting a primary weapon, which would be probably the bolter for our primary. We will also try and get a good secondary weapon, which will probably be maybe the AK Bolto or maybe even the A Furus, which is the kind of like the Kimbo Furus. Maybe even something like the Lex would be good later on.
Tenno, there's a time-limited mission
Aside from
alert
that,
available.
there are a
Check
lot of good
navigation.
weapons, but they're really far in our mastery out of our mastery reach. Couldn't do that alert that just popped up because don't have it unlocked. And lastly, for melee weapons, there are tons of melee weapons you can use. Like I said, one of the best ones to get early on would be the dual commas. But there are some other good ones. Lecta's a good one to get. Let's see, can we get that right away? We could, yeah. So if we had the resources for it, we could potentially get the Lecta. These are things to kind of work towards. They do change every now and then kind of what your master requirements on certain weapons are. But if you already have the weapon, you can still use the weapon even if the mastery is kind of out of your reach. So building a bunch of weapons early on is worth it if you have the time and are able to do it. Let's see, Nami solo. Yeah, really, the big one that we'll probably go after is the commas. Let's see, what do we want to get here? So, basic comma will be that, and then a dual commas will be a combination of 2 commas, so you'll have to build 2 of them, and then have an Oracle cell plus the extra credits. Probably don't have enough credits to even start on that. Like I said, we'll focus on the Bolter first. I guess I can show the Warframe that we will be trying to build right off the bat, which we can get his parts from Venus, I believe. I can show him off. He will be... So there's tons of different Warframes. It's definitely worth it to go down the list to figure out what Warframes kind of suit your playstyle, kind of what you're wanting to work towards, and trying to figure out where they are. A lot of these Warframes, though, tend to be in the later parts of the game, so you won't be able to access them right away. The one that we will be able to access right away, and will probably want to access right away, will be Rhino, though. Rhino is a basic, standard warrior frame, and that's kind of the best way to describe him. He's got a charge attack, which works pretty much as you'd expect. He can go through enemies and hit them, knock them out of the way. They'll, fall over. He's got Iron Skin, which protects him from damage, which is the main reason why you definitely want Rhino, because he'll be able to just tank a ridiculous amount of damage. He's got a Roar, which gives increased damage to all of his allies plus himself, which is fantastic. And then you got Rhino Stomp, which is his last ability. It's similar to Volt's ability, but it just kind of hits instantly. It's a thing that puts enemies around him in stasis. His passive isn't super great. Every time he lands from a great height, he'll emit a shockwave. It's not too bad. His armor is great. His energy is great. His health's good. His shields are good. His sprint speed is kind of bad, so he's not the fastest Warframe, but he's definitely armored, and he'll get us through most of the content. So he's the one I'd go for right off the bat if you're looking for a good Warframe that'll carry you through the game. In the meantime, we have kind of run out of time for the moment. I could go more in detail about how to get certain things. Overall, though, that is kind of just a basic rundown of the primes. The bounties are finished. We will try to get more mods so we can get our junction, and I will show off that relic in a bit so we can see the Void Fissure and how that works. Until then, though, goodbye.